Welcome back. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan. This is Mark Borkowski, and we're off the fence. And we've been out of the loop for quite some time because Mark has had the worst case of man flu ever recorded. There he goes.
I tell you what, this bird flu virus I picked up took me out for a whole month. So this is why we haven't been back on this bench on the embankment to offer the great unwashed our views on world events.
Well, it's very courageous of you to return.
I'm fit now, Kev, but I tell you what, when you're ill, when you're really ill, you know, all the things, oh, I got a touch of flu, when you can't lift your head off the pillow, then you start concentrating or focusing on your own mortality.
Yeah, that happens to me, usually after about 10 gallons of vodka. So
I think that's why I didn't. I wasn't drinking 10 gallons of vodka.
Well, you know what to do next time.
I do.
So, you nearly died. Now we're all going to nearly die, or possibly actually die, due to this escalating situation with Russia. What's your take on that?
Rhetoric is very, very dangerous, and I think in a couple of hours' time, Theresa May is going to show her true colours, her statesmanship. Let's hope she's not focusing on the book of events that Margaret Thatcher wrote and decided to bolster her popularity by launching an attack on a nondescript nation over fishing and oil rights in the Falklands. Argentina had a few exocets to fire, devastating consequences. This is a bristling nuclear arsenal.
About 25 soldiers, yeah.
But this says something now
Russia is more of an important enemy, isn't it?
Well,
a more effective enemy. But I think that obviously we can see that the situation is getting very tense. What worries me about it is in this social media world, you have a prime minister, a timid prime minister like Theresa May, who's being forced into a very bombastic position by an angry nation, particularly the people of Salisbury, and by politicians tweeting out, Facebooking out, and somehow or other, these situations, these international incidents, are being made worse by this social media madness that we have to exist in.
Yeah, and also newspapers. I mean, I was looking at the Daily Express Twitter feed last night. There were sort of 7 stories, one after another, which was ramping up the whole, you know, the nature of this debate.
Or the Daily Mirror Express, as we now call it. Now that it's owned by that famous socialist newspaper, the Daily Mirror, buying the UKIP Express. What a marvellous meeting of minds that is.
Study that. But importantly, I think that, you know, this is a Trump effect. You know, we're getting politics and we're getting debate drilled to a soundbite. And the other thing that we're not seeing at this time, we're not seeing true experts who are stepping forward on radio and TV and newspapers, given an even-handed view. It's as if even the broadsheets want clickbait. They want an event such as this to generate circulation.
The whole world wants it. I mean, that is the point about this situation that we're in, which, by the way, is very serious. You know, Christopher Mayer, the former British ambassador in Washington, you know, he did say, if you start murdering people on foreign soil, that is the next worst thing to all-out war. So we are on the brink of something here. But look at the way Twitter and Facebook are central to the equation. The Russian embassy here in London is sending out mocking tweets to the Prime Minister, you know, like goading her.
It's playground banter.
Yeah, I know.
It's playground banter.
So it's this strange new fusion of the crazy world of social media and the dangerous world of international politics. And caught in the middle of this, like a rabbit caught in the headlights, is Theresa May, the worst Prime Minister we've ever had.
Well, let's think about the Trump speech where he virtually threatened nuclear war to North Korea. And we were all thinking, my God, the Korean Peninsula is going to be, you know, fried to a crisp. And actually, we really believed that that might possibly happen. And I think that has a direct influence back to this. And arguably, it's brought 2 parties to the table to talk. But it's the strong party getting the weak party, the rogue state, together. This is a completely different attitude, and it is election time for Trump. This is the worst possible time to start saber rattling, as if as if we can effectively change things.
It's such a serious situation that even Comrade Corbyn and his Russia-loving mates
Jezza.
are beginning to like take a position against Russia, and that's saying something, because they usually love Russia, because in their stupid antediluvian way they still think it's like the cradle of socialism. You know, I've got bad news for you, Jezza. The situation has changed in Russia. So I think the Labour's contribution to it so far, which is let's get round the table and talk to Russia. What a waste of time that would be. That's getting us nowhere. You wonder where Theresa May's position is taking us as well, and you wonder really what Putin has in mind. There's no doubt whatsoever, you know, let's not beat about the bush. Russia was responsible for what happened in Salisbury, was responsible for that outrageous nerve gas attack on Sergei Skripal and his poor daughter, which may have contaminated as many as 500 British citizens. And the government is in a serious situation. It's got to respond to this. And you wonder where we're heading here. I mean, you know, jokes aside, we've got this kind of one side of the argument is the amusing nonsense going on Twitter, and then the really serious stuff going on between the British government and the Russian government.
But what you say about the amusing stuff on Twitter, actually, Twitter now has a sizable influence, arguably, on serious decisions.
Yeah.
And that is my concern, that in this day and age, this ramps up the rhetoric, this ramps up the heat, and you don't believe that in diplomatic circles that doesn't have an effect. And I think that we could, if not with this, we could be pushed into a situation where social media could end civilization.
Well, actually, you know, that's not a bad point. I mean, look at what Trump's been doing. In fairness to Trump, I know you're a big fan.
Oh, yeah.
With his Twitter games, he was ahead of the game. I mean, you know, people criticise him for saying, oh, it's not presidential. What's he doing tweeting out stuff at 4 in the morning? Well, what's the Russian embassy doing this week? Tweeting out stuff left, right and centre, goading the government. Government has to tweet back. It is extraordinary that this social media thing, which we say is a kind of new development, is suddenly so central to the international equation. And I think in a way, we've got to stop saying, oh, it's ridiculous, and start taking Twitter and Facebook very, very seriously.
It's just not about the numbers and followers. It's actually a live news wire that is pumping out sound bites that people are reacting to. And I think unless we get serious discourse back alongside social media, and if the traditional media only understands its place and doesn't try to mimic the sound bites, we are then going to get a balance. Or we're going to get someone standing up and actually giving us a sensible position to in a way, to detoxify what is a rabid environment. But yeah, stand by. What's the time now? What's the doomsday clock?
Yeah.
You know,
whoopee, we're all going to die. But I do think, finally, on this, that one of the problems we have is that governments, particularly Russia, around the world and America, are very social media savvy. The Tories, the British Conservative Party, are still existing somewhere between like 1920 and 1950 when it comes to modern media. And it would be better if they were more adept at using this tool in a superior way to they do now. Somehow you feel we're getting kicked around on the social media, and the Tories have no sense of how to use it properly. So I hope that they can develop and they can get better at this, because the way things are standing, it's not a very good situation for Britain.
Let's move on.
Yeah.